Good evening, everyone. Learning, in, Learning Never Exhausts the Mind by Leonardo da Vinci. With this inspiring thought, I extend a warm and heartful welcome to each one of you. It is my great pleasure to welcome our respected head of the department, distinguished faculty members, esteemed panelists, honored paper presenters, research scholars, students, and all participants to the fortnightly symposium of the In Tandem Research Club organized by the PG and Research Department of English, Queen Mary's College, Chennai. The theme for the academic year 2026 to 2027 is popular culture and literature. Today's symposium focuses on bestsellers. We are delighted to have two insightful paper presentations, followed by a panel discussion on bestseller or classic intersections and crossovers. I'm confident that today's academic discussions will enrich our understanding and encourage meaningful scholarly dialogue. Without further delay, let us begin today's symposium. We shall now begin with our first paper presentation. It is my privilege to invite Ms. Subhashini Gunasegaran, editor and scholar, English Language Education, Orient Black Swan, to present her paper on bestsellers. Ma'am, we are delighted to have you with us. The virtual stage is yours.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, everybody. My topic is Anatomy of the Indian Bestseller. So, we are going to go ahead and have a research based analysis of the market dynamics today in India for literary bestsellers. So, the research framework today is going to be to deconstruct the Indian bestseller phenomenon. That we're going to deconstruct the phrase Indian bestseller. What is a bestseller? And we're going to analyze the phenomenon of consumption patterns, pricing strategies, and cultural resonance. So, consumption patterns come from the marketing team, the Edge. So, they give us the current patterns and the current influence they have right now, and the pricing strategies again are done by the production team, and cultural resonance is again how readers relate to a particular piece in the market. So the hypothesis is going to be the mass market success in India is driven by readability, price sensitivity, and omni-channel accessibility. So when I say omni-channel, I am on campus, so it's very noisy. So when I say omni-channel accessibility, I need that there are more than one way to read a book nowadays. So we have digital books, Kindle, and we have hybrid books. Even e-libraries are booming. So onto the objectives. We are going to identify the socio-economic factors that drive a particular book's sales in India, especially, and analyze the shift from the traditional literary fiction to mass market commercial successes. We're going to evaluate three distinct bestsellers as archetypes and we are going to have three different case studies to do that. So, key terminology. We're going to be using these terms constantly throughout the whole presentation. So it's going, one is going to be mass market, the other is going to be price sensitivity, and the last term will be distribution. So logistics is what I mean. Yes. So mass market, when we look at the market methodology, it starts with the price accessibility and it moves on to the readability of the consumers and then the social media hype. So, if you see nowadays, most of the book promotions are done through influencers. So, that has been taking over the marketing and the sales values. So, why does a book go viral? So these are the three things. Price points. Right now, a good literary works price point is somewhere from 199 to 299. Language is accessible English, and as you can see, I have English in the small e because uh, there are different Englishes is what we have arrived at. So it should be an accessible English and a distribution. It should be at very common. Recently, I was pitched that one of my books will be at the Delhi Metro. So that was one of their pitch. So that's what I mean by distribution, placement, and all of those things. So key point is that India's market uniquely blends e-commerce with legacy infrastructure. Yeah, all these wheel stalls on the road, they make a good distribution space. So on to our first case study. It's by Amesh Tripathi. So I hope all of you have heard about his Shiva trilogy, where he brings in the religious and mythological Indian roots into pop culture. And his success wasn't just writing, and it was mostly majorly in marketing. Um, so basically, initially, he started as a trilogy. So initially, when the first book came out, he started giving out chapters for free at bookstores. Say, for example, Barnes and Nobles, Higginbottoms. So he started giving out samples of his writing so people would read and get back to him. He did not just depend on his synopsis, was one of the major points. So he commercialized faith, but with a lot of ethics. So a study into Amish Tripathi's work goes beyond commercialization. So his marketing was quite revolutionary, and he was giving away sample chapters at retail outlets. And he also mentions that marketing is not about selling a product; it's about building a connection. So he says it's again a very important spoke in the wheel of production, distribution, and making a book a bestseller. Second case study is Preeti Shenoy. So she dominates the commercial fiction space by focusing on mental health, self-help books, and a lot of everyday struggles, urban India. Her book Life is What You Make It resonates a lot of emotional readability among a lot of middle-aged crowd. And the narrative, the appeal is very strong, is what the readers feel. So more than the emotional anchor, it highlights the self-help fiction. So it's a hybrid. So it is self-help, at the same time she has fictionalized the book. She has made it a narrative, and it's not just a bunch of instructions. So she's come up with a hybrid genre. She addresses mental health, relationship with simplicity that resonates with India. So you can, as if you see case study one, Amish Tripathi was majorly focusing on marketing strategies and bringing in religious and mythical roots of India into pop culture. However, Preeti Shenoy's focuses on building a hybrid genre. So the consistency of her publications was more made it further possible for her to become a bestseller. So third one is Arundhati Roy. So I'm pretty sure we are all well aware of Arundhati Roy's work, The God of Small Things. It proved that the Indian stories could dominate global literary stage. So hers was a bestseller for almost the longest time, I believe almost 5-6 months on the top seller list. And till today, it is also prescribed in a lot of classrooms and courses. So Roy's success relies on linguistic virtuosity and political depth. Her market is the global Indian and the international literary elite, proving that highbrow fiction still demands massive commercial power. So she became a literary giant. If you see, it proves that literary fiction can reach mass market numbers through international prestige. Awards and prizes also, they make a lot of difference when it comes to selling a book. If you are recognized by a body, an authority, and you win something, and it means that you have reached a particular set of standards. So that can also speed roll your book into a bookseller. So we saw how Tripathi worked on marketing. Tina Shenoy worked on her Shanoy worked especially on her hybrid genre writing techniques and her speaking to the emotional quotient of the readers. And also, God of Small Things won the Booker Prize, so that win got her, made her a bestseller. At least for most part, it was a big factor that took her work forward. So Roy uses intricate prose to discuss political and social taboos. And again, this is one of the major things. We all think that bestsellers must be easy reads, especially when it comes to India, like pop reads, quick reads. But then again, Arundhati Roy has proved us wrong there with her work, because her prose is a little more intricate and complicated, but still it did manage to become one of the bestsellers. Could be because of the Booker Prize. So, what makes an Indian bestseller? So, what is the sweet spot that we're looking for? Um, Basically, the price point starts at something, because you need readers to have access to the books. And given that our average annual incomes and our basic salary and all of that, someone can afford a book under 299 for a easy read. And it should be relatable English, and it should have aspirational themes. India is one of the few markets where physical book sales are growing alongside digital consumption. So this is again a very important factor to keep in. You should also focus, as a if it needs to be a bestseller, one of the factors should also be that it should be available as an ebook, as a digital content. You can give it to e-libraries, so that can also increase visibility. So reviewing market drivers. So what are the things that push the market? What are the catalysts in the market? Extremely complex vocabulary and experimental structures, maybe in some literary spaces where it is expected to have such standards. Hardcover only releases maintain exclusivity. So it's the formula of limiting something, and winning international awards. Obviously, having more. It adds credibility to your work, is what it means. Affordable pricing and relatable accessible language, all that again is again a huge part of why a book becomes important and a bestseller and very popular. The anatomy of success, the campus effect. If you see, a lot of writers have now taken to a campus experience, a student experience, because we have a huge youth population, and um, the the biggest backbone of a book to sell, especially, comes from its relatability. So they feel like if they cater to the youth of India, it would sell more, so they would relate more. And then, of course, distribution power. A bestseller isn't just found in fancy stores; it should also be, like I mentioned, the Delhi Metro pitch was the most feasible and the most easiest way to make it a very popular book. So critical evaluation. So when we go through the study, we there arises two questions. So one is the mass market dominance that's like taking over India right now. Will it suppress the quality of literary writing, or does it democratize reading for a lot of? Does it provide accessibility? Is that the way we are going, or does it compromise the quality? So that's one question that comes up. Second question is, there are lots of digital platforms like Kindle and Audible and all of those things that are becoming extremely highly used in India nowadays. So the definition of Indian bestseller, can it change entirely if a book is not available for people online, if it is only print? So the balance is still to be seen. So we have to work on that balance as well. So final findings: the Indian bestseller market is a blend of tradition and tech, and that's where we are right now as of 2026. Summary: we have accessibility and it beats complexity, so that helps. Pricing helps a lot. And then community engagement with a book. Say, for example, when you say community engagement, nowadays communities have become online. So if your favorite influencer or your uh, maybe, for example, even a concert, someone releases a book there, it has a better chance of becoming a bestseller. So India has become a tradition and tech blended market as of now. So I would like to take this platform to announce a happy news that my first debut collection of poems are coming out. So this is my poetry collection. We just finalized with the publisher, and I won an award as well. So this is what we were talking about. So I won the 21st Century Emily Dickinson Award for the book. Um, so I think whatever we spoke about, maybe if we implement it on my book, and we will actually see practical results soon. Thank you. That will be the end of my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am, for engaging an insightful presentation. Your expertise and valuable perspectives have greatly enriched today's symposium. We truly appreciate your contribution. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ma'am, could I invite
As Saishri joined, I think we can actually have a discussion on what do you say, Srilata?
Yes, now on her book.
Yeah, I mean it's so fresh and refreshing. Subhashini's
Ask
paper.
one question. I no doubt you are in the publishing industry. You know a lot about the books that are coming out. I wasn't into Indian books a lot, except for the mythological, and I mean that is Devdutt Patnaik and people like that. Yes, but you have brought out a book on poetry.
Yes.
Now, how good is, I mean, are our Indians at buying poetry books? You tell poetry. How much will it sell?
That is a very good question, ma'am. But then that's why this poetry collection especially is based on 21 ordinary women, starting from a fisherwoman in the marina to roadside street vendors and music teachers and nurses, teachers, and all of them. And I have written the poems in such a way that they are very simple, very easy, and they are just a couple of lines. There's not even an entire phrase. So it's all broken down into words. And I hope maybe this would be a start. It's not a very literary, complicated work. So I was hoping to bridge the gap that you mentioned, that how likely are Indians, especially to purchase a poetry collection. But it's going to be hopefully in the Delhi metro, and with the description, I hope they would feel comfortable picking it up and reading it. Ma'am, your mic is on mute, ma'am.
Picking it up from a library or some other collection, then looking at it, spending time. You know, I have noticed so many poetry collections that just go. People just sell it. I mean, they just give it away. They don't sell it online. So I was just fiction would. I mean, somebody would buy it to pass the time. In India, I'm not very sure about English poetry.
Subhashini.
All the best with your book.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, Subhashini, I've been. I mean, I've been told that poetry is a hard sell.
Yes.
So, what do you have to say about that? I mean, I had the impression that people publish their poems and just give them away as gifts, and or give them to libraries. People don't. They buy novels. They buy a collection of short stories, but they don't buy collection of poetry. I mean, what's your take on that?
Understandable, ma'am. The publisher initially had the concerns. So we tried to simplify the language, we tried to simplify the context and who we are addressing there. Those women, even if they read it, I'm pretty sure they'll be able to find resonances there. And it is also a story. They are interconnected poems. So the last line will be the first line. It goes in a circle. So this would bridge a lot of hesitances and like inhibitions they have before picking up a poetry collection or selling one. This almost reads like an entire narrative. So we
What
thought, why
kind of
not venture into it? And 21 poems, they're very short poems, half a page hardly. And I'm pretty sure if we pitch it saying it'll hardly take you like 2-3 hours to read it. So why wouldn't you?
okay, you've analyzed the market very well.
Yes. Again, I would still like to know what kind of marketing have you indulged in? I'm Saraswati from
Yes.
CTT College. What kind of
Yes.
marketing have you actually started on this particular thing?
They've already started giving it out to influencers in India. So this is a South Indian market. So we have started giving it to Instagram influencers who we've also sent it to uh, the what's her name? Sorry, I just have a little bit of a brain fog. So we tried sending it to these influencers. So that's one thing. The other thing is they're selling it in metro station stalls. They feel like, it's one of those stories that you read between one stop and another, and you should have it, and it should leave you with a feel good feeling. And also we are having a book launch here at IFLU, where students are eager to buy it. My peers and all of them are. And moreover, we've also thought of right now they are also pitching it in the US and UK markets as Indian snippets. They call something, there's something called hyper localism. So having an object. So there's one on Malipu. It's a street vendor, a Malipu. So there's one on that, a potter. So there's all of those things also. So they are selling it on the idea of hyper localism, where they can read us not as the West or the East, but they can read us from within. So they have a lot of pitching angles for now, but I'm not worried about the abroad market. I'm sure it will. Like we discussed, Indian market, poetry collection, again, is a huge task to get it out and make it a bestseller. But then thankfully all the literary techniques that went into it has got me an award. So that made me more confident that it will sell. And it's been taken up by Barnes and Nobles as well. So they are doing it too. This is very new, man. This just got approved and got the ISBN like 3 days ago. So they're all very excited. I'll keep you updated.
Yes, I think it would be interesting to see how India in the metro reads poetry. I would like to know.
Thank you.
Subhashini, regarding your paper, I was quite interested in this self-help fiction.
Yes.
Apart from Preeti Shenoy, could you recommend some other writers
Sure.
for our students who are for us as well?
Self-help.
I mean, could you just list the self-help fiction that you know?
Yes, ma'am, sure. So we have The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
Yeah.
Okay. That comes under self-help
Yes,
fiction.
that does. So
Okay.
The Palace of Illusions we've all read. That's a little on the literary side. So we have people like Anand Neelakandan, Sudhamurthy, Ashwin Sankhi, and we have Robin Sharma. Yeah,
Robin Sharma.
Robin
Yes.
Sharma. Penguin Random House and HarperCollins, they do a good job. Rupa Publications also. They all do a good job with self-help.
And maybe you can also venture into self-help fiction if it's, selling really good.
I think Jayco
Okay.
also does, no? It's low priced. Jayco.
Jayco, yes. Quite moderately priced. I think ma'am got disconnected.
What is the name of this book's publisher, please?
Mine, ma'am?
Yes.
Bookleaf.
Bookleaf, okay. Did they not offer to do any marketing?
They did, ma'am. They are doing all of this. So they are putting it up in metro stalls and they're sending it to influencers.
Okay. No, is it the package included that you opted for included this marketing also? So there will be a package for without marketing as well?
There's a 12K package without marketing. That's only they'll put it on all the digital platforms, they'll put it on Amazon and all of that. If you need marketing, that's another package. If you need it placed in places, they will pitch it to people. So slowly they are pitching it across. So far Barnes and Nobles have taken it up.
Yeah, that's a
So
big
that's
deal.
a
Yeah,
huge thing.
congratulations.
They are pitching it across places, and now that it's got the award, so it's becoming easier for their marketing team. One thing, and it's a debut work, so that's a whole other challenge they have to deal with.
True, true. Interesting. All the best.
Thank you, ma'am.
So regarding the books that you've selected for your presentation, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Uh, what do you know about the marketing strategies that they employ?
I only got to read more about Supati's marketing strategy, where he gave out samples at book outlets, and he was giving it to people. He was following those old strategies where we write weekly fiction, like one chapter a week that comes out in the periodicals. So he followed something like that to increase the buzz of his work. So that's one thing that was interesting in his. When it came to Arundhati Roy, it was the Booker Prize that did it. And when we talk about Shenoy, it's her technique of having the hybrid nature in her genre. But then again, when we talk about her marketing strategy, it's because she made the digital books more easily available, and she also priced her Kindle versions way less than her paperbacks. So Kindle versions were less than 50% of the paperbacks.
So there is a bit of smart work involved, right, in becoming
Yes.
a bit of smart work, a lot of smart work.
True. Distribution, pricing, huge role.
Now, this Notion Press, Authors Press,
Self-publication.
whenever you approach when you approach these people, they ask you these questions about who your audience is, what do you want out of this book. Could you tell our audience about what these publishing houses do, how they study how they work it out for you, and yeah.
So basically, be it academic publishing or fiction publishing, we have style sheets. So style sheets come from our marketing people. So they give the demand of the market. So they're like, see, this is what right now the market is looking for, the schools are looking for, or the audience is looking for. Say, for example, there's a lot of youth population. We're looking for something to indulge them in. We're looking for some. Now, COVID came. So we had a lot of lessons for, I think, grade 6, 7, and 8 regarding COVID measures and all of those. So we get the current climate and the need of the hour from the marketing agents. We make a style sheet. So it's basically a demand and supply situation, but a little bit more strategically. So we have everything themed out for us. So and then we sit and make a budget. We make the color budget if it is a children's book, and then if we don't have to, if there are illustrators, so we have all those budgets. So say for example, we go to an author, or an author approaches us, and we have this meeting with the author. We see if the current budget and the theme and the direction we are trying to aim at this year is the same, or is the author coming close to it. So they should fit the style sheet, which is decided by the marketing and sales people.
That's nice.
Rarely
Actually, we have another poet. Sai is also a poet, the other presenter.
That's lovely.
So Sai, you missed one moment. Subhashni showed us her publication, the publication of her poems. And Srilata, can we go to Sai's paper? Yeah, Sai, you can present now, Sai.
We can make cross
Good evening, ma'am.
as we.
We now move on to our second paper presentation. It gives me immense pleasure to invite the staff lecturers of English, Department of English, Faculty of PU and Degree College, Bangalore, to presents a paper titled Bestsellers in Life Sciences Writing. Ma'am, the virtual stage is yours.
In life sciences, this is a topic that's actually personally close to me because it is an intersection between life sciences and literature. Genealogy, it didn't start today or in the 18th century. It started with Beowulf, Castle of Orlando, The Blood Doctor, Lifespan, The Virtual You. Fiction based on life sciences. Fiction life sciences is not just written for the people with a background in the domain, but also for the general people. Like we can see a lot of people who are not from the background of life sciences reading Agatha Christie or Sherlock Holmes, etc. Bestsellers in life sciences, as I said, it started with Beowulf, the most ancient text in the history of English literature, whose author is unknown. We don't know the author of Beowulf, it's that old. It talks about wounds, healing, and aging. Castle of Otranto by Horace Walpole, even mentioned by Jane Austen in one of her books. It talks about alternative medicine, family decides fate. Even before the concept of genetics evolved, this book, Castle of Otranto, talks about family lineage, biological inheritance, and physical health traits passed down through generations. Frankenstein, technically called as the very first science fiction by Mary Shelley. It talks about diseases, it grapples with questions of bioethics, it talks about mortality and morality, anatomy and tissue assembly. Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. It talks about organ cloning and harvesting, stem cells. It grapples with questions of posthumanism. Like the clones, they come to know about the purpose of their very existence. It grapples with the questions like, do clones have emotions at all? The Martian by Andy Weir, published in the year 2014. It talks about botany, human physiology in space and nutrition. It uses interdisciplinary knowledge, mainly agriculture and astrophysics, to survive in Mars. Before I go to sleep, this talks about journaling. The protagonist suffers with anterograde amnesia, means she forgets whatever happens during that day. She forgets her past. She writes a journal. She is not able to trust anybody, including her own memories. It talks about memory and physiology. The Silent Patient, more recently published by Alex Michalowicz, it talks about neuroscience, psychology, and brain-mind connection. Sort of talk about trauma, pathophysiology, forensic biology, medical ethics, and it also talks about the boundary between the physician and the patient. The Andromeda Strain by Michael Crichton, it talks about microbiology and containment protocol. It deals with an extraterrestrial microbe from another planet that mutates blood and how the military personnel and scientists put up a fight against it. The Kind of Girl, it is a very interesting book by Paulo Basiculapi. It talks about genetic engineering and humans genetically engineering other humans. It talks about bioethics again, physiology and metabolism, pathogen evolution, and systems biology. Ramayana, as we know about the Sanjeevi mountain and stories like that, it is one of the oldest epics. It talks about wounds and healing, alternative medicine, and many more. Mahabharata, it talks about biotechnology. You might wonder like why and how on earth does Mahabharata talk about biotechnology? Well, I would suggest that it is an important text to be analyzed through various perspectives and various lenses. And why biotechnology and how biotechnology? Vyasa asked Gandhari to place the lump that she gets when she bumps her stomach against something because the Pandavas were born earlier. So Vyasa suggests that this lump be placed in a nutrient medium, that is ghee, and he asks her to report periodically, probably on organogenesis. That is why Mahabharata talks about biotechnology, medicine, prosthetics, the use of artificial limb for the very first time by the warrior queen Vishpala. Machinehood by S.B. Divya 2021. It talks about biochemistry, synthetic biology, human physiology, and most importantly, societal impact of cybernetic biology. Palatak Tufan was written by J.C. Bose. It talks about biophysics and fluid dynamics. It is funny that it was actually written for a contest as an advertisement for a hair oil, and Bose weaves the fiction around how the oil calms the waves. Initially, he hides his identity and gives it as an entrance for the competition, but it is for his friend, but they don't know until he wins the competition. Cloned by Priya Sarukai. It talks about human genomics, reproductive technology, and cloning. Stillborn is a medical thriller, and it talks about contraceptive vaccine research, reproductive biology, and dark secrets surrounding clinical trials. The best-selling authors of all time. H.G. Wells, even though he is not from a biology background, he has been influenced tremendously by the theory of evolution by Darwin. He co-authored this book, The Science of Life, with Julian Huxley, who is from the domain of evolutionary biology and genetics, and his own son, G.P. Wells, who is a scholar in the field of animal physiology and marine biology and evolution. Eve Curie, she has written a biography on her mother, Madame Curie, and other books like Journey Among Warriors. Charles Darwin, he needs no introduction. One of the earliest bestsellers in non-fiction. It is said that he has published like 1,250 books. On day one, it got sold. Every one of that 1,250 books got sold. He wrote On the Origin of Species. Edwin Schrodinger, who is a scholar in the field of quantum mechanics, he has written many books like Schrodinger's Cat. But this one, What is Life? This intellectual bestseller influenced many scientists to come, like Watson, Crick, and many more. It gives me immense pleasure to place these two writers and scientists side by side. I'll tell you the reason why. James Watson, in his book DNA, The Story of the Genetic Revolution, directed mutation, genetic engineering, all that. But Rachel Carson questions the use of synthetic pesticides like DDT, all that. Rachel Carson has authored The Silent Spring. She is a conservation biologist and a marine biologist. Craig Venter of Celera Genomics. He has written Life Decoded, My Genome, My Life, Life at the Speed of Light, From the Double Helix to the Dawn of Digital Life. Jane Goodall, she studies primates and animal behavior, primatologist and ethologist. She has authored The Chimpanzees of Gombe and Seeds of Hope. Dr. Hope Jaron, she is a geobiologist and paleobotanist. She studies plant fossils. She has written her memoir, The Lab Girl, and Dr. Susan Simard. She is from the domain of ecology. She has authored The Mother Tree. Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett. She is from the field of psychology, neuroscience, and cognitive processes. She has authored The Secret Life of the Brain, 7.5 Lessons About the Brain. Professor Sunetra Gupta, she is from the domain of epidemiology, mathematical biology, and immunology. She has written a lot of fictions, though not based on the life sciences, but she has written a lot of fiction like Science of Omission, Memories of Rain. Professor Rohini Godbole, she is from the domain of particle physics and high energy physics. Leelavati's daughter, the women scientist of India. Dr. Siddhartha Mukherjee is a physician and he has authored many books like The Emperor of All Melodies, wherein he talks about cancer and the Song of the Cell, the Gene, and Intimate History, Medical Humanities. Even though this term has been, heard more often recently, this term was coined in 1948 by George. It is a wedding between the humanities and the medical sciences. Why medical humanities? Medical sciences and humanities, why should they come together at all? Medical sciences, medical humanities help the doctors to empathize better with the patients, to hear and listen to their stories, how they feel, about what they're actually going through. It allows the patients, caregivers, and supporters space to put forth their narratives. It also makes the people with rare diseases and disabilities feel seen and make them feel significant. And with respect to humanities, it brings about awareness about diseases and terror in the field of quantum mechanics. He has written many books like Schrodinger's Cat, but this one, What is Life? This intellectual bestseller influenced many scientists to come, like Watson, Crick, and many more. It gives me immense pleasure to place these two writers and scientists side by side. I'll tell you the reason why. James Watson, in his book DNA, the story of the genetic mutation, genetic engineering, all that. But Rachel Carson questions the use of synthetic pesticides like DDT, all that. Rachel Carson has authored The Silent Spring. She is a conservation biologist and a marine biologist. Craig Venter of Celera Genomics. He has written Life Decoded, My Genome, My Life, Life at the Speed of Light, From the Double Helix to the Dawn of Digital Life. Jane Goodall, she studies primates and animal behavior, primatologist and ethologist. She has authored The Chimpanzees of Gombe and Seeds of Hope. Dr. Hope Jaron, she is a geobiologist and paleobotanist. She studies plant fossils. She has written her memoir, The Lab Girl, and Dr. Susan Simard. She is from the domain of ecology. She has authored The Mother Tree. Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett. She is from the field of psychology, neuroscience, and cognitive processes. She has authored The Secret Life of the Brain, 7.5 Lessons About the Brain. Professor Sunetra Gupta, she is from the domain of epidemiology, mathematical biology, and immunology. She has written a lot of fictions, though not based on the life sciences, but she has written a lot of fiction like Science of Omission, Memories of Rain. Professor Rohini Godbole, she is from the domain of particle physics and high energy physics. Leelavati's daughter, the women scientist of India. Dr. Siddhartha Mukherjee is a physician and he has authored many books like The Emperor of All Melodies, wherein he talks about cancer and the song of the cell, the gene, and intimate history, medical humanities. Even though this term has been, heard more often recently, this term was coined in 1948 by George. It is a wedding between the humanities and the medical sciences. Why medical humanities? Medical sciences and humanities, why should they come together at all? Medical sciences, medical humanities help the doctors to empathize better with the patients, to hear and listen to their stories, how they feel about what they're actually going through. It allows the patients, caregivers, and supporters space to put forth their narratives. It also makes the people with rare diseases and disabilities feel seen and make them feel significant. And with respect to humanities, it brings about awareness about diseases and therapies for the same through fiction and non-fiction. It enhances community participation. This pandemic gave us an idea about how everybody should be aware and how community participation, how and why community participation is really important. And literature metamorphoses along with developments in science. And here's a picture of Vladimir Nabokov and Anton Chekhov. Vladimir Nabokov is was an entomologist, and Anton Chekhov was a physician, but they wrote a lot of books. And they didn't say, this is not my cup of tea or that is not my cup of coffee. And Homi Bhabha was a nuclear scientist, and he was also a literary critic. And it is needless to say that we study Bhabha alongside Edward Said. And contemporary bestsellers in life sciences, as I said, literature evolves, it metamorphoses along with the developments in science, life sciences as well. What is included in the bestsellers in life sciences? Precision medicine, bioentrepreneurship, genetic engineering, synthetic biology, forensic sciences, food and microbiome. Way forward for medical humanities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your informative and thought provoking presentation. The valuable insights into life sciences writing and best selling literature have provided us with new perspectives. We sincerely appreciate your time and contribution. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for that very comprehensive account. But what we call bestsellers, you've given us another title. This is a hardcore. What books you've given are mostly academic. The books that you have talked about are mostly academic books, and they are meant for learning. So I think I would place most of the books that you presented in the area of classics in their particular field, not as what you call best-selling writers. Maybe they made Carson and others made the scientific, writing, readable for all, readable, and so you've given another interpretation to the term bestseller. So that's one. So all bestsellers, there are other bestsellers. They go into a lot of research. Every book that is called a bookseller has to put in a lot of research in order to survive in the market. Nobody would read it unless it had some stuff. Though the reading, the only the language is for the common man. It's meant, it won't be full of scientific terminology. Whereas most of the books that you you just called out, the language may be scientific. I mean, I have not read except Carson's Silent Spring and one Species. Origin of Species I've read. All the others I haven't read. So I don't know what the language is like. So that's one way of interpreting. I mean, finding out whether it's a bestseller or not. But you've given us a real good collection of real good science books, which everybody can read. Scientific books on humanities.
I'd like to join the discussion here, and just I want to understand. That's why I'm coming in here, Srilata. She said Rachel Carson's A Silent Spring. My eyes went on that only. You take Vandana Shiva's books also.
Yes.
Would you put it down as bestsellers? Rachel Carson, Vandana Shiva, people who wrote on environment.
No, Rachel Carson was a bestseller in the field of environmental writing. Okay, it went.
It can't be classified as a bestseller.
Not the literary bestseller versus classics of literature. Not that. In them, in the field of science. See, in the field of science.
For Stephen Hawking's The Very Brief History of Time, that's because of the sales, the sale aspect is a very defining factor in bestseller. So this would some of the books that she has listed, the books that you have listed, would this factor of it sold this much bestseller, yeah?
Yes, ma'am. And one more thing,
all the sales aspect.
Yeah, and one more thing is it's all written by scientists, but for the general population, the general public. It is not for the scientists alone, though it may include some terms and jargons. It is actually for the public. And with respect to Schrodinger, he has specifically said that it is for the general public that he is writing. And even with respect to Watson's, it's completely different from molecular biology of the gene and other stuff, because he has said that that is for the general public.
And that other book, one book you can add to this, what's that? Theo of Physics. Oh, but that would be, that's also...
there is another one called the placebo effect, Wim Hof effect or something like that. That also can come under this. How to, all this are for, endurance, that kind of books. There are plenty now in the market. and people are buying it. It's a corporate bestsellers. They are actually the corporate people. They give it as gifts and buy it, or like the books on marketing. So you may not understand all the strategies of marketing, but God is a salesman. Book like that, they take concepts from the Bible, Mahabharata, and the others, and it's all marketing. Marketing strategies that are put into those books. So they are all bestsellers, certainly. So we are defining bestsellers a little differently here, not the literary kind of bestsellers. This is with an aim to capture certain kinds of what is it? Market, whether it's the marketing section, the computer literates, the natural science people. Okay, it's like that. Can be science made easy. So meant for the common man, but some effects. When it's not like, I tell you the difference. Robin Cook's Fever. Okay, the book. That's a book written about infection and all that, and how hospitals make use of all kinds of strategies to make people sick and then treat them and things like that. There are plenty. Robin Cook deals with a whole lot of
Yes, ma'am. Robin Cook's books.
Mind bend
Yeah.
in women.
yeah, mind bend. Yes,
Yes.
mind bend.
Coma.
Yes, Poma.
Mm, mm, mm.
That's different.
No.
See, that's also science, but for the common man, it's made into an intrigue, a plot, an adventure, all those, and then a little bit of detection, finding out all that.
Yes,
This
yes.
part of
Medical mystery. If I might take it to another perspective, the old ones, now, for example, Odyssey has come out and everybody's
Yes,
talking
it's
about
still
that.
yes. We are
It,
talking about
yes, it is an established classic. It has been prescribed and we've been studying it for eons. But this particular movie is not the same as what we studied. This is based on a different book, and yet this is very popular, which is making the people watch the movie and go back to buy that book.
yes.
So, switching from one not literary platform, media platform, to another media platform. After so many years, again, Odysseus is becoming a bestseller. So, not just because of the popularity of a particular text that has always been considered as a sacred classic text, the marketing has changed directions to promote anything that has value for that age and that audience, and therefore it brings it back. So, we have the story of the women who do the calculations to help launch the first space thing. There's a movie and the story of the hidden women or something. There's a book also. So it brings about the role of the women who were working, black women actually, who were not recognized, who were working behind the scenes, doing all the calculations that were quite equal to that of a computer. And eventually they are recognized because they have to put in their best in order to help launch the satellite, first US satellite. I'll just get the name of the book, ma'am. But yes, science story. It was there as a book, but
Andy, somebody, no? What's the name?
WEIR.
A single man trying to save the planet.
Yes, yes, and he has been frozen in time and shot into the space. So he will wake up and he will bring back what she's talking about for another book also. He brings back bio enzymes that will
I
change
think
the
the movie has
atmosphere.
come out. The movie is on something, no? Movie is out. Tell me.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I
It is
haven't
out.
seen
It
it
is doing
either.
well, and therefore that has come back to launch the book also into a bestseller. So this will today's bestseller probably it is a good candidate for tomorrow's classic.
Yes.
So I mean we cannot exactly consider it science because there are few points in that book that are not quite scientific. It seems scientists are questioning certain things. But whatever it is, I think Andy Weir is a good candidate for a future classic writer.
What is that thing about by Michael Crichton with the dinosaurs? What was that? Which became a
Jurassic Park.
movie?
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park. So, the novel becoming movie,
Recalibrating the
kind of,
gene.
yeah, and
Yes,
then
ma'am.
the novel gets popular because of the movie. So that
Exactly,
kind
ma'am.
of
Exactly. So
thing is
yes.
equation is
So
there.
it relaunches that, and therefore, do we consider that as a classic now, or will the
Mm.
future consider that as a classic, a start of a different line of scientific investigation, whatever?
Actually, we had a panel discussion on the invite. So are we doing the panel
I
discussion
think
now, or
right now that's what's going on, I think.
is going on? Okay. Yeah. So
So,
the theme of our panel discussion is bestseller classic. Maybe we could address that just for a few minutes and wind up.
Yes.
yes.
Sri, could you announce that?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. We now arrive at the final academic session of today's symposium, the panel discussion on bestseller or classic intersections and crossovers. It is my honor to welcome our esteemed panelists, Dr. Maria Preeti Srinivasan, Associate Professor and Head, Department of English, Queen Mary's College, Chennai. Dr. R. Srilata, Retired Associate Professor and Head, Department of English, Chellamal College for Women, Chennai. Dr. B. Saraswati, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Chevalier T. Thomas Elizabeth College for Women. We are privileged to have such eminent academicians with us today. I now invite our respected panelists to begin the session.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe we can just talk about this classic bestseller concept, and as we the premises today's bestseller is tomorrow's classic. Some things arrive on the scene with the tag classic. So where do you draw the line?
Want us to respond?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
The number of books written as what you call classics are very few when compared to, I think, a thrice of 5 times more of bestsellers come out every year. What we call classics. But then classics are written. When they are written, I do not know whether they attain the status of classics. They could be popular books. Shakespeare, Dickens, Scott Fitzgerald, Margaret Mitchell's Gone with the Wind, all of them, when written during their times, it was just bestsellers. Later,
So
they,
popularity
yes,
is a
the
very important
popularity
factor.
itself. And that's only one of the factors. Okay, that's one of the factors. And in bestsellers, I think the appeal is, I mean, if it has an enduring appeal and it goes on with time, it stays on in people's minds either because of the characterization of the structure or the literary techniques used, then we call it what is that? It's they stay on as what you call literary, as a literary classic. The others get forgotten. Others get see the most of these books. See, I have read so many of Barbara Cartland's romances, and recent times I don't think I remember even the plot of one properly. But all that I know is there is this kind of triangular love. There's a lord. There's a girl who's abused. This so there you can read. You can make any number of gender studies into it. All of it, but I don't remember which book is what. Georgette
I
Heyer.
remember Georgette Heyer also.
Georgette Heyer
Yeah,
it
which one you read
remains
them
a little
all?
more in mind because I think I
Historical
like
fiction.
it. Yeah, both are historical, but both are about the Regency period.
The
And Julia
Georgette
Quinn
Hare
writes now.
histories are more
Now
they're
we
more
have
closer.
Julia Quinn writing now, and I don't. It's steamy and it's on all the OTTs. I think Netflix. It's on Netflix. The Bridgerton series. It's. I mean, it's the what I mean. It was chased reading Cartland and maybe the other person you just mentioned now. No.
Georgia Peer.
Georgia Tire. It was chased. I mean, the writing, no what you call untouchable elements, but here it is the picturization is even steamier than than is needed. So
It is
Julia,
more the picturization only, ma'am. It is not so in the books. I checked it out.
not so. I haven't read many of the only
Yeah.
one of Julia Quinn's books I've read, so I don't know
Yeah.
about that. So it's when it becomes a movie, everything becomes a little off. Even self-help books, quite a number of them are on saying a man called Otto. Otto, it's like the man called Ove. It's a Norwegian writer's translation. That's his book. All this are the I mean, okay. And another thing I want to tell about the difference between these two is that they have both classic writers, as well as what do you call these bestsellers. The authors, they go into a lot or take a lot of trouble to go to places, right, when they are writing about something, to do a lot of research. Arthur Haley, Wilbur Smith, you take all of these writers. They had a whole lot of people, Julia Quinn, and Julian May, Henry, Helen Fielding, all of these people. The Julia May writes science fiction. Helen Fielding, writes goes into a whole of this kind of relationship with women, picturization of women. Their say American, but in our own time, we were not allowed to touch any of these books, so-called books then available. Hardy, the James Hartley Chase, Daniel Steele. They were there all around but I was allowed. I went only into the area of detective fiction, which is also what we call bestselling. Agatha Christie.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think now we're coming to the point where theme and taste is there. So one side you have the romance, and the other day, now I was just remembering Irving Stone's Agony and Ecstasy,
Yes.
and the other one about
Magnificent Obsession,
Magnificent.
Lloyd
Magnificent
Douglas,
obsession. Yes,
Rome,
Lloyd
and
Douglas.
Magnificent Obsession. So much of research goes into that, and it's very
Much more recently, ma'am, Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. All
Dan
his books
Brown.
that Robert,
Dan Brown.
yes, Dan Brown's
That's
books.
all
He
into
wrote.
archaeology
Robert
and
Harris.
politics. I remember
study of
Robert
symbols.
Harris books.
Then
And at one point, there was this Ayn Rand Studies Center itself in Harvard, is what I remember reading. Ayn Rand was very popular in the 90s.
Atlas Shrugged.
Yes, and then We the Living, Atlas Shrugged. So I think it's just taste, people with interest in politics, governance, and then there are people with taste in art, and that boom is there in the sales. And then romance, the readership might be young women.
Espionage, political conspiracies. That is Robert Ludlum, Wilbur Smith. What do you call epic? Even Tolkien in his time, J.J. Tolkien and his son, they did all the, what is that? That Hobbit and all that on TV.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings. Yeah, all that is was only popular fiction in that age. Okay, today you might read it as what is that? Tales of the Middle Earth. as,
It
as
does, yes,
something
ma'am.
else.
If I may, ma'am, this after Harry Potter came out and after the Harry Potter universe was created, the adults went back to Tolkien to read about the Lord of the Rings because that is for the
Yes.
grown-ups.
So,
Harry Potter
yes.
was for the kids. So I don't know if you can just dismiss that as you said, but I think that is still sort of, it has some kind of a power over the minds of say 50s plus people. They would prefer to read that, and the 30 to 40 age group will stick with Harry Potter. For them, that is a classic because they grew up with it. Whereas the older people will say, no, we've already read it. And this is a kind of a child version for you.
Yes.
This is what I do
Uh,
with my daughter. I am fighting with her. I said, it has already been said. And she says, no, it is not this way. It is better this way. So,
Anybody read Neville Shute?
yes, ma'am, I
yes,
What
have.
happened to the
Town called
Cobbits?
Alice.
All human life stories,
sound like
like
Alice.
Alice.
Yes, Town
Yeah,
like
what
Alice.
happened to the Cobbits? All about the war, and then Good Earth, Pearl Buck and group,
Good Earth.
Rebecca and Jamaica in
Moria.
became, yeah,
Yes.
Daphne du Maurier.
Yeah.
All of these different versions. I mean, different areas. Colin Dexter, Ian Rankin. They are all British, but like Inspector. I mean, they are detective
Most.
series.
Yes,
Inspector
ma'am.
somebody, yes, coming in. So
So
Anthony
again, I will go
Horowitz.
back to my thing only, ma'am, because all of these things we have read and we might not consider them
Yes,
classics, but if a movie were to be launched on these things, James Bond, if we watch that movie and it takes hold for today's generation, they go back to buy the book.
yes.
So the sales will again talk about whether that book is a classic book or not. There is no need for any extra marketing or anything.
Yeah,
The
this is
movie,
actually where I want to pitch in, Saras, ma'am.
yes, ma'am.
Uh, See, when before we had the media and we had, we had the critic. We
Yes.
had the critic and we had the reviews. Okay, we have the critics telling us this is literature, this is a classic, this is the T.S. Eliot's tradition and the individual talent, and Pope and Dryden, and all of them told us, how to judge something that is pedestrian and how to, you know, discern between the
Universal.
pedestrian and the classic. But then later on, when we had the print media and reviews being made, but now I don't know how many people read reviews and then go and buy a book. It's, as Subhashni was pointing out, a lot about the market dynamics that
Yes.
So the
and
influencer,
Launching the book hype with all
yes,
hype.
they are giving providing reviews. It is the reviews that they provide which is going to help with the marketing. So the influencers
okay.
are people who have done that before for other products, and therefore now they are going to launch her book also. So that is how marketing works today. So the
The
digital
format
media
of the review has changed.
Like
things has now become very
about
easy to.
reviews in those
Yes, ma'am.
days, you remember? I think that John Keats and all suffered at the hands of the
Reviewers. Yes,
older
yes, yes.
reviewers like Wordsworth and others who they looked down on
Yes.
them, and so many of them were hurt. Whereas that
Yes.
kind of, I mean, there was Sydney saying that this is the standard of poetry, or
It's gold,
I mean,
silver. Yeah.
we have, I mean, a whole lot of reviewers, as I mean, as she mentioned the other day in a keynote address, Aranya talked about all the touchstone methodology and Arnold and what is right and what is wrong, right? But we don't have that kind of a thing now. That is another. Even I mean, nobody told us the very word novel. I used to tell you, I was telling Marie Preeti the other day that we could not use the. I mean, my father had used to shout at my uncle and all, "Are you reading a novel? Please put it down." Mom, novel meant all those, the things that should not
Unnecessary
be.
things
Yes.
being given to us.
Yes.
Yes.
Novel should not be read. Only I think he changed his attitude only after I studied literature and he had to go and buy novels for me. See, so from the shops. this is the covers may have, unseemly pictures and all that. Still,
James Hadley Chase would have been there in all the shops in
yeah, for
the
Brave New World and all, it had,
yes,
right.
yes.
So that,
So I think
and then another thing about classics is that they generate another section of books which we call fan fiction. For what we call classics now, maybe from whether Shakespeare or and all those books are rewritten now as for young adults,
Retellings.
retellings as young adult fiction. There are maybe
Jayashree from Queen Mary says, any voracious reader would read reviews before getting a book. So do we agree on that?
No, not at
yeah,
all.
we
I
do
read
look up. No, we do look up. If I'm going to a bookshop, I will look at the back. I will
blurb,
read
ma'am.
the blurb.
You read the blurb. Yeah, review as
You
such.
read
You
the
go.
blurb.
Yes, because reviews can be as myriad as the number of
Biased. Yeah,
as,
exactly.
as the, and each one will have a different taste. So I will look for good reviews, reviewers like maybe the Times, the Guardian, or whatever that, or somebody whom I know who has.
Again, ma'am, we are old
Yeah, but
school.
I'd like to play the devil's advocate here and join Jayshree because, when I maintain a kind of a bucket list of books that I'd like to include in the syllabus or I'd like to read, and that bucket list comes from reading the book reviews in Frontline and the literary reviews in the Hindu.
Yes.
So I think that's what she means.
Academic. You are going in for an academic session. Yes, you have to. You will
Yes,
have
ma'am,
to
because it
read
is the
and you will
syllabus that you are thinking of. Yes.
because
I would-
otherwise it will go out of syllabus so very quickly. Somebody would comment on it and it will go. So we will have to, be very careful how we choose.
Sai says, Rufus sir says that he would not trust a person who doesn't read a book. Thank you for that, Sai.
Yes.
And I want to add one quip over here. Now, this is the age of the rage. So, whatever's the rage, people, oh, this is the rage. I've got to buy this book. Everyone's talking about it. So
See, now
that's
nobody is
factor.
buying. People have stopped buying what's that Harry Potter series. I went to the old book exhibition. The whole thing is there. Nobody's taking it up. A few years back, I would have found people picking it up. Now that the movie has come out, nobody's picking up the book.
No,
Okay, I
ma'am,
want to bring in
think
this point about a book which speaks to you, a book which speaks to a generation, or a book which speaks to an audience. So at
may
one
I,
point of
ma'am?
time, Harry Potter spoke to people, the
Yes.
anti-hero kind of thing. Maybe so. What do you have to say about that? Any observations on? Do people just go in because everybody's talking about this, or they the book becomes popular because it speaks to a generation or an audience?
Yes, ma'am, I would agree because the latest one, Percy Jackson, there is the series.
Yes.
That
All
boy has ADHD, he's dyslexic, and he has his own strengths. So he's able to memorize maps. He can all sorts of unnecessary information for which there is no examination or anything. He can memorize. And now this is again a kind of a fan fiction of Odysseus. That's what they say.
Yes.
So this boy is a very popular person among the teens. So this character and his series, his adventures are told and retold. So maybe if you had looked for
All
back,
mythological, yeah. All the
mythological based, yes, yes.
not Indian mythology, Odyssey and
No, Greek,
all
yes, yes.
Percy that I have one collection.
So that is the thing that is being sold now. So suddenly now it is Greek. So I think a bit earlier, we had this little boy who was like Beam. So Chota Beam was the rage all over. So we had all kinds of marketing around Chota Beam. So then that character became popular.
Among the elders, I think the Mahabharata retold by this Amish Tripathi, Devdutt Patnaik, who the others. Quite a lot of books. That's how they buy and give it to as gifts Another
To the
thing is
youngest.
not all who buy read it. They gift.
No.
Gift the books also. Right? It
Yes.
would be good that way. So quite a lot of, I mean, there are even one Douglas or somebody who has written a whole lot of books on Mahabharata, some mystery from the Mahabharata, some about Alexander traveling to India and finding what we call it, that Palkadal, no, that one, what that
Oh.
yeah, that's what some Alexander, that he writes on whole lot of mysteries like that, connecting Alexander and India. Alexander, when he came to India, he didn't really come to conquer. He came because his mother sent him to, find out about this. Live for long, live as long as he can, because once you dip yourself in that kadal, whatever that is, I forgot the name of that.
Parkadal. Parkadal.
Okay, it has got a name of what he uses in English. It's English.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, he would live for long, but unfortunately, he never found out that mystery had to be found. Okay, it was an eye opener for many people in India itself, the ones who went in search of it. So, like that, they connected. So, all of it is not exactly what we know as mythology or fiction. Into that, they make inroads, and they make mysteries out of it, and make it a very engaging, like a thriller, something like that. So there are
Which
books.
appeals to that generation, and therefore it becomes a bestseller. So that generation, it speaks to the generation, as ma'am was saying. So depends on what kind of societal problems we have, with which the author is creating these kinds of books, and therefore that generation will be taken in by that, and then they become bestsellers, and subsequently,
Another
depending.
thing about the style of writing, what we saw as very what do you call that
Wordy, long.
nobody would read a Faulkner style novel today.
No.
Okay, nobody would go in for that kind of a novel. But uh, there are some people who prize language, and so they still read only classics. There are others. I mean, I like the style of writing of the of today. In all this, they do it well. I mean, they're not writing nonsensical language. It's good. It's broken down into maybe smaller sentences. It's current. The language is current, and yet it is literary.
See, many young people could relate to Chetan Bhagat's writing.
Yeah.
And
Yes, it was
the
easy.
older generation, they were kind of,
Offend-
yeah, they were, but they could relate to two states, in the marriage and then
Yeah.
working in the call center, all those things.
And then there are prizes, awards for. Another thing is there are awards for not only for the classics, also for the
Bestsellers.
bestsellers. Plenty of classics, and actually it's not based on the number of books that were sold. It's also popularity vote is taken, I think. Also the number of. I mean, that's only the total number of books that were sold is not as important as the popularity vote that is given through some. I have written down. I had written down somewhere the name of the literary Pulitzer and Singh is also there, but National Book Awards, quite a number of them.
So that's a point to be noted. Awards and prizes,
Yes.
which again, is work done by publishing houses to promote.
Teen fiction, for everything there is. Science fiction, separate prizes, awards there are.
So,
Yes, ma'am. My author, the person I
yeah.
had chosen for my PhD, he was a nobody, Abdul Razak Gurna. Subsequently, he got the Nobel Prize. So the marketing changed after 4 or 5 books of his, having published 4 or 5 books, and then he was launched onto a higher platform, and then he got the Nobel Prize. So the publishing industry plays a very important role in getting that kind of uh, footage for them in the public mind.
Another thing is those who write classics, maybe they don't make as much money as those who write bestsellers. Jeffrey Archer is a classic example. He was a politician, no,
Yes,
and who
yes,
lost
yes.
everything, but he made it up by with his
By yes,
writing.
yeah.
His writing.
John Grisham also uses law and writes
Bishop,
something like
yes,
that.
law
Yeah.
on law. Perry Mason and the others. I mean, Earl Stanley
Earl
Gardner.
Stanley Gardner. Mm.
These were people of our time. Okay,
Yes.
all of these.
So we consider them classics. Somebody
Yeah.
had written the
What-
current generation is more pragmatic and sensible, it seems. Therefore, they don't, Harry Potter does not seem to appeal to them. I think it is Jaya Sri Kripa has written that. So, I mean, we have grown up. When we were probably reading it, I mean, I was a mother when I read it. That's a different issue. But that was the first time I read something like Harry Potter. So I was enamored. For me,
I
it was
want
just
to make this point about reading communities. I've come across these two things on Facebook: junior reading raccoons and senior reading raccoons. And I often get suggestions of books that, because they have these conversations about books. So someone said, I want a book about modern feminist thought. Uh, and then someone responded saying, you can read this book by Apurva Purohitos. I think, Lady You're Not a Man. So I jotted that down and I bought that book, Lady or Not a Man, and it was easy reading and it was interesting. So this reading community kind of helped me to find a book on a theme. So that's also an influencer. These reading communities are also influencers.
again, they exist in vast numbers over the digital media, ma'am.
Mm.
Everything is interconnected there. So if
Mm.
you are somewhere even in the tangentially connected to it, you are able to get in and you get all these free books on Wattpad,
You get
uh,
free books also.
A21, 820, something like that. So you just keep reading whatever is posted over there. There is no claim for this is the final version of the book. It can get better. You can change it or something like that. That is also there. You have the liberty to say that this particular character should not die. I want that character to live longer. Or you
I
kill him
also
with
want to make this sorry, tell me. Yeah.
no, that's it. So these things are there in the digital media, which is what the current generation is more connected to.
Another thing, a small thing I wanted to notice, when a classic comes out and it's not marketed big, but the bestseller comes out with an explosive, thing. I think that there's a difference. A classic still remains. It has to get a Pulitzer or some prize in order to, I mean, Nobel, in order for us to go and look it up in the, look it up and read it. Whereas this one is all over the place. Every bookshop will have it in the front row. No, all these books that come. That's the strength of the marketing people.
Twinkle Khanna's books, ma'am.
Huh?
Rajesh Khanna's daughter,
Yes.
Twinkle Khanna, her books, yes. They're always there on the front row of any of the bookshops that I go to. I hate that woman.
Mm.
She very easy read. She writes about what she goes through every day, and simple stuff, nothing profound or anything. Very conversational tone, simple things that she undergoes. So that is how it is sold because she has a
Yeah, she's
presence in
brand
the
figure.
media. Yeah, therefore she's able to sell.
So branding, marketing, so lot of strategies
Go to make a
go
classic
to make
in the modern time.
bestseller bar classic.
Yes, yes.
So I think we've had a very nice discussion, and poor Saras has stayed back on campus. He needs to get home.
Actually, the fashion walk is still on, ma'am. So
Okay. So
You
we
had
can.
something.
Why?
You had something heavy, no, in this college today. You had some meeting.
yes, ma'am, the fashion walk is going on, the cultural thing, Chainika.
No, Maria also had, I think. No, you
Yes,
had.
theater workshop.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So that's why I thought, will you be on time or something? I was just wondering.
Okay.
Then I just want to wrap up with one thing. See, sometimes this hype is when you go and buy the book or you read it because you. This is also the academician's angst, I will call it, where we have to know what's happening. And you buy a book and it's not, you read it, but it's not to your taste. But it's got to figure in the syllabus because it's won a Booker Prize or Nobel Prize.
But in our time, there weren't many what you call the so-called this non-literary bestsellers. But one I remember when I was in 11th or something, Future Shock.
Mm.
Alvin Toffler's Future
Alvin
Shock
Toffler.
came out. Everybody was having it and passing it on to others to read. How we'll have paper clothes and plastic and things like that. All those items. So that was a kind of a bestseller. Everybody was buying it and giving it to others. So there were bestsellers of that kind even then.
This is purely personal. See, the Hong Kong, or what the lady who won the prize.
RF Wong.
Yeah. So the vegetarian, I found it a very morbid book, but I pushed myself to get through it because we had a seminar on we had a session on in tandem. So this is the academician's angst when it comes to the bestseller.
We have to read it in order to know things. No, that's why.
You should be
Could
able
we
to
close on that note
Yes, ma'am.
with a
Those
little
who have-
question for each other?
those who have children, yeah,
Yes.
they will be in touch. So Saras is at the right. She still has a daughter who keeps reading everything. It's movies. Yeah, she'll be
I
there.
get a lot. My reading list comes from her also. I make sure that I know what she's reading so that I will be able to talk to the students.
Wow,
And
this
she
is
that-
interesting. The teacher, the parent,
Yes,
And
everything
these
together.
are also factors.
And friend
Yes.
and friend. Yes.
Yes.
She goes with them for every movie also.
Yes.
The teachers and parents are also influencers and people in the circuit.
I
Right,
still
or shall we
remember
close?
when I was
Yeah.
in Auxilium, the sister, no, she just called me and asked me. It was a time when I've never read anything except detective fiction. I hadn't gone into romance, and the only romance I read was Christian romance. Bates School will have racks, where you can only pick up books from this kind of, this rack or that rack. So when I went to college to teach the first year, the sister asked me if I know about this. What are the books the children read? She asked me specific terms, and I yeah, I didn't know any of these things. So sister must have thought such an ass. This one is she doesn't know how will she deal with. I mean, all this. She was asking about Mills and Boone and all that. I said they are very harmless books, sister. They don't have anything. They're just triangular love. That's what I heard. She said, no, 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 no. Children here read. They pass books and underline tab. They read. Whether they know English or not, they are reading such things, and it's all steamy stuff. She said. And then I said I should read it and see what it is. So unless I said this is sequel to this, you have to know what the Bill Mills and Boone we read in school is not the Mills and Boone that comes out now. It's all porn stuff only.
Jayashree says, Takali Sivasankara Pillai wrote Chemmin, an award-winning novel, yet readers feel more drawn to other works of the author.
Yes. Or Rendidangari and other things. Those and the row. What is that? Those books are better than Chemin.
So we'll wind up because Saras has to go.
Yes.
And thank you for this lovely session. Sri, could you wind up the session? Please, Sri.
Thank you, respected panelists, for such an enlightening and intellectually stimulating discussion. Your diverse perspectives have deepened our understanding of the fascinating relationship between classics and bestsellers. We sincerely appreciate your valuable time and scholarly contributions. As we come to the end of today's symposium, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our respected head of the department, distinguished panelists, paper presenters, faculty members, research scholars, students, and all participants for making this event a memorable academic gathering. I hope today's paper presentations and panel discussion inspire each one of us to continue exploring literature with greater curiosity, critical thinking, and academic enthusiasm. Thank you all for your valuable presence and active participation. Have a pleasant evening. Thank you.